speak for itself. Grinding in silence, ain't nothing to tell. When we step on the court, we gon' bring it to light. And we stop and pop like we caught it a light. Stop asking what's wrong with me. You already know there's a dog in me. And there's no stopping my focus, man. Make sure all my people gon' ball with me. Yeah, I came to compete, I'm a dog with it. Yeah, I came to compete with my paws in it.
Anybody, I always have like a pump-up song that I listen to, right? And it changes from time to time. And so I was meditating this morning and praying this morning. I'm like, all right, just whatever you need to let me know. And I haven't heard this song in years, and I'll give you $5 if anybody can name this song. But this is the song that came up, and it was, and it's not going to work. Oh. And it was Rocky IV. And literally, I looked at Jordan, and 10 seconds ago, he's talking about Rocky, and I'm like, dude, it doesn't get any better than that. It doesn't get any better than that. And I was telling Courtney that this is not Family Wisdom, which I've read, but The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari was the first book. I was telling Courtney this just when Jordan brought this out. The first book when I was 25 years old that someone taught me, one of my mentors taught me to read. He said, look, if you want to grow yourself, you want to be a better version of yourself, because at that time I was fearful, I was afraid, I moved to a state that I knew nobody. I'm originally, just a little background on me, I won't bore you too much, but I'm originally from New Jersey, and I never even knew where Indiana was on a map when I moved here. And I met my wife I was in chiropractic school, and what's crazy about Jordan explaining before about how you don't need to know the what, you just need to know the vision of what you want for your life. I envisioned my wife 5 years before I met her, exactly what she looks like. And the week before I met my wife, I was dating one of my high school girlfriends from New Jersey, and I just happened to go up on a break, and she completely ghosted me and stood me up. So I decided to get back on a plane. Back in the day, it was $75 to change your flight to, you could do it anything, just $75. So I asked my mom, I didn't have any money. I said, can you pay the $75 for me to go back to Atlanta so I can, I'll prepare for school. I don't want to be here. I just got dumped. She's like, no problem. So I flew back on a Tuesday. That Friday, I'm from New Jersey, so I was unfortunately a Mets fan. And the Mets were playing the Braves. This was 1998. And so I went to Braves game, and there was a bus that took us to the game, and that's where I met my wife. So Morgan Wallen's 98 Braves is our song, because that's when we met in the year of 98 Braves, even though I'm a Mets fan. So that's what got me to chiropractic. And what's awesome about what Jordan was talking about, and I'm telling you, you look around people who are the best versions of themselves. And first of all, I got to tell you, I really commend you guys coming out on a really nice day on a Saturday to try to better version, make yourself better, because there's not a lot of people who will do that. So you guys got to give yourself some props there and give yourself some love to do that, because you being here is going to inevitably change your life from this day on. And when I was thinking about what I was going to talk about today, I'm like, Jordan always pumping me up, always like, man, whatever you say, I know the Lord's going to put it in your heart, and you're going to rip it. And I'm like, so how can I have the greatest impact on these people here today? What kind of value can I bring for you? And I wrote this talk as I was driving up here, because I had a talk all prepared, and then I was like, nah, that's not what they need. I'm like, where does my value going to be shared with your value? Like, what can you get out of me the most? You're getting a lot from these guys to where I don't have to repeat everything they're telling you, right? So I'm going to give you a completely different vantage point and a paradigm shift. So in the hour that I have, now that time is ticking, I was like, all right, how am I going to change your life in an hour, right? So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to change your life in an hour. And what I mean by that is I'm going to change everything you thought and believe about your body and about what you need to do to use the tools that Jordan and Courtney are giving you today and this weekend. Because here's the thing, just like he said, none of this mindset stuff works when your health is going in the toilet. It just doesn't work. Because then your focus changes, trust me. What's the old saying, everybody's confident until you get hit in the face, right? everything changes when you lose your health. And really, your health is your greatest value. It should be your greatest value. It's not for most of our society. As you see, we're one of the sickest nations in the world, right? Out of all the industrial nations, we're dead last in everything. So we have the most money, most power, most technology, but yet we're dead last. And a lot of that comes from the fact that no one teaches you what to be healthy, really, because, and again, I don't want to offend anybody if you work for a pharmaceutical company, but I want you to understand that there's no money to be made in getting you well. There's a lot of money to be made in keeping you sick. And the beautiful thing about every single one of us is that you are not broken individuals when it comes to your health. You're not. So you don't need to be fixed. And you don't need to be chemically altered. And you don't need to be surgically operated on. Everything that you have inside your system was designed by God to be able to create balance and homeostasis and get your body to heal. Now, what I'm going to explain to you is going to seem so simple that you're going to be like, man, this makes unbelievable amounts of sense. It can't be true. How come this short little bald dude from New Jersey is coming out here when he could be out speaking to thousands of people? To be honest with you, this is how it happens, right? I have to do this because no one else is willing to do this. Because it's much more profitable to keep you sick than to get you well. So, I'm going to write down a couple words here. The first word I'm going to write down is ignorance. And I'm going to write down stupidity. So, what's the definitions between ignorance and stupidity? Does anybody know?
Ignorance, not knowing something to begin with.
Correct. Ignorance is not knowing. Stupidity is knowing and not doing. So today, my goal for you is to make you no longer ignorant. Now, what you choose to use with this information will either get you well, or you can choose this. Because stupidity is knowing and not doing, right? So I'm going to change your paradigm on what you've been led to believe for generations about your body and your health and your healing. Because just like I told you before, that whatever Jordan's teaching you today and Courtney's teaching you this weekend, it does not work if you do not have your health. So the medical paradigm is that we're all genetically weak. You're broken. And I know this because I've been doing this for 26 years. And I'm not telling you this to brag, by the way, but I'm just telling you just to give you facts. I am one of the largest health practices in the Midwest. We see at my office, I have 6 doctors, and we see about 1,450 patient visits a week. I have people who drive from Marion. I have people who drive from Illinois. I have people who fly up for Texas once a month to see me for every day for the week. I have people who fly over from Germany to see me. And the reason is, not because I'm good looking, Jordan, but it's because I am not afraid to tell you the truth regardless of what you think of me. And where did that confidence from? That confidence comes from everything that Jordan's teaching this weekend. I've had to practice this mindset over and over and over again. Now, when I was 15 years old, I was fortunate enough to have an injury that got me to the point where I could not heal. I had a football injury, could not breathe. I started to get pneumonia, started to have bronchitis. I was chronically getting sick and ill. And I would go to doctor after doctor after doctor after doctor. And guess what they would give me?
Pills.
Drugs. They'd give me a prescription or a label. They'd give me a drug. And I would take that drug. And guess what that drug did to me? Made me sicker. In which I would need another what? Another drug. So at 15 years old, I'm on like 6, 7 different medications. And then one of my family friends happened to mention that I should go see a chiropractor. I knew nothing of chiropractic. I've never been to a chiropractor before. I've bought everything that you're thinking right now. I don't have back pain, neck pain. I don't have headaches, things of that nature. They're quacks. They're not real doctors. All the things that I've heard. I decided to go. And then my chiropractor at age 15, My parents were not in the room, by the way. I don't know if they didn't believe in what they were doing, but they were so sick of me being sick, they were like willing to do anything. And the beautiful thing about when you hit rock bottom is that you're willing to do anything you possibly can to get out of rock bottom. And unfortunately, I will tell you, after seeing so many patients and practice members for 26 years, my best patients are the ones that are completely at the bottom, because they have nothing left to lose and nothing else to gain. The people who are kind of right in the middle, they feel a little bit okay, a little bit not okay, those are the worst, because there's nothing driving them. And unfortunately, as we live in a society, we are driven by either extreme pain or extreme pleasure, right? That's what drives us. So my parents were in the room, the doctor sits me down and explains to me the nervous system, explains to me how the body heals, and I'm like, look, I don't really care, to be honest with you. I just want to get all this stuff away. Anyway, I started getting adjusted, started getting into a rhythm, into a pattern, developing a new pattern. Everything started going away. Not only was my chronic pain going away, my bronchitis got away. My immune system got better. I no longer got sinus infections. And then I went to college and didn't get chiropractic, and everything came back. So my initial thought was, man, that didn't work. It worked for a while, and then it didn't. Because that's how we view things as outcomes. We're always so fascinated about the outcome and never so focused on the process that when we spend too much time focusing on the outcome and not focusing on the process, we lose sight of what we're trying to accomplish. And I'm going to tell you, the stuff that they're teaching you here this weekend, if you're consistently focusing on your outcome, you're going to lose. The goal of this and what you're doing here this weekend is to focus on just consistently getting better over and over and over again. I've been doing this for 26 years. I still read books like this. I still meditate. I still journal. I still do everything that Jordan's teaching you guys and Courtney's teaching you guys, because it's never ending. And even though I've achieved outcomes that I set in my mind from a goal standpoint, you don't get to a goal and be like, all right, yeah, good, I'm done. I'm going away. That's it, right? It's a constant, never-ending evolution of getting yourself to be better and better. Anyway, that was my story. So getting back to the medical paradigm, they believe that you are genetically weak, that if you have high blood pressure, or you have diabetes, or you have cancer, or you have arthritic changes, that you don't have a prayer to get better. So here, take this, and when you take this, you're going to take it for how long? Forever. The medical community, and God bless them, they're great at saving lives, but they're really poor at building health. Right? Great at saving lives, really poor at building health, because that's not their specialty. Their specialty isn't designed to try to get you well. Here's the question I have for you. Does taking a blood pressure medication and a cholesterol medication get you healthier? We all know this, right? It does not get you healthier, but it manages the symptoms. But you have to do that for the rest of your life. So when Jordan said, he said it in a roundabout way earlier, he said basically everything is hard, right? You get to choose your hard. You have to choose your hard. Taking blood pressure medication and cholesterol medication and getting sicker but feeling better throughout the remainder of your life is an easy hard method. I'm going to take the easy route now, and then it's going to be hard later on. Getting up and moving your body and feeding your body and taking care of your nervous system and driving an hour and a half to get adjusted is hard. But you know what? If you invest in the hard now, it's easy down the road. You get to choose your heart. Completely get to choose your heart. But not knowing that there's a choice is a problem. So again, coming back to where I possess value for you guys today, right? By the way, I'm not selling you anything here. And I don't care if you come to see me. That's not the whole point of this. The point of this is to change your paradigm about understanding where your health comes from. Because here's the thing. We all have the same genes. In fact, I will tell you, and there's a human genome project called, it's actually research on genetic code. It shows that the human gene has not changed in over 100 years. So why is it now that we are sicker than we've ever been? Is it because of our genes? Because that's what you've been told. You've been told that you're sick because your genes. Watch this. If I took a skin cell and an intestinal cell and a heart cell, and I looked them, by the way, can we agree, right, simple science, that your genes were manifest from mom and dad, right? They created genes, they formed you, and those genes created something called a zygote, and that zygote split and eventually cell, and then 9 months later created you. Yes? Yes? We could all agree on that, right? I know we live in a weird time, but that's kind of how it is, right? That's how it is, right? That's kind of biology. It's simple, right? Simple science. So we could all agree that even though our heart cell may look different under a microscope than our intestinal cell or an eye cell, that genetically in that human being, it's all the same gene, yes? It's all the same gene. I'm going to blow your mind here for a second. But if I looked under a microscope at the eye cell and a heart cell, even though they're the same gene, do they look the same? No. So is it the gene or is it the expression of the gene that's the issue? I don't need to say anything else, do I? So I want you to understand something. Whether you call it diabetes or cancer or heart disease or blood pressure or migraines or whatever you want to call it, it is not your genes that's the problem. It is the way those genes are expressed that's the problem. So, if we're going to talk about the word health, I don't like that word, so we're going to erase that. If we're going to talk about the word health, okay? First of all, if you looked at the word, the definition of health is right in the word. What is it?
Heal.
Heal. Right? The definition of the word health is heal. Notice the definition of the word, I'm not going to say anything about the word how you feel, which, by the way, everything as it relates to our health is geared towards how we feel. Everything. We, in fact, make decisions about how healthy or sick we are based on whether or not we have symptoms. Not true. So here's the question I have for you. Ready? If you have all of a sudden out of nowhere, and most of us, I guarantee that you guys know some of these people. They went to the doctor, they were completely asymptomatic, they come back with a diagnosis of cancer. How many of you know somebody who's had something like that happen to them? So before they got to the diagnosis, when they were feeling fine, did they have cancer? Before they felt, before they ever went in and got the diagnosis of cancer, did they have cancer? Let's say that it was the day before. Did they have cancer? Yeah. Yes. But did they know they had cancer? Did they feel that they had cancer? No. So what I'm telling you is whatever health condition we wind up with, whatever symptom that expresses itself to the surface, you had it way before you were symptomatic. You just weren't symptomatic. Health, by definition, is not a matter of how you feel. So when I told you I'm going to change your paradigm when you walked in here as it relates to your health was, look, if I feel good, look good, my kids look healthy, they get their well-care examinations, right? And they don't find anything abnormal on them, they're what? Healthy. No, they're not. How do you know? The difference between being healthy and being asymptomatic are two different things entirely. And everything we do and how we react in our society about our health is geared around whether or not we have symptoms. So if we don't have symptoms, guess what we're going to do? Nothing. We only act, or I should say react, is if we become symptomatic. So when we talk about the definition of health, it is not how you feel, but it is how the genes are expressed and how you adapt. I'm going to say that again. The definition of health is how your genes are expressed, how you self-regulate, and how you adapt. So if you're losing your health, it is the expression of the gene that's the problem, not the gene that's the problem. So the answer to the question is, what causes the genes to express itself in such a manner? What do you think? Shout it out, no wrong answers. What's that?
Lifestyle.
Bam. It is your lifestyle that causes the expression of the genetic code. Even more important, and in addition to your lifestyle, it's not only your lifestyle, but it's how your system precedes the lifestyle. So, we're going to talk about how you lose your health and how you regain it. Because I'm going to tell you right now, I have patients, and I'll go through and explain this several times. I have a patient by the name of Bob. Now, I do workshops all the time in my practice to the community and our practice members. And these workshops are like 200-300 people. We have them in different event halls, and we explain and go through how to change your lifestyle. We talk about the nervous system, which I'll talk to you guys about in a minute, but we talk about the lifestyle. And we talk about how the genes are expressed through lifestyle changes. So this guy, Bob, would come to, his wife, Carol, has been a patient of mine for almost 20 years. And his wife would come and get adjusted every week consistently to keep her nervous system healthy, and her husband would come to workshops, but he was never a patient. And he heard me and listened to every workshop that I gave for over about 5-6 years. And he implemented a lot of the strategies. His wife would tell me, oh, he's starting to change his diet the way you talked about, Mike, and he's starting to take the supplements, and he's starting to pray and meditate, and he's starting to exercise better, and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, that's great, but he's not here. So he's not taking care of his nervous system, which I'll explain again in a minute. So he did everything. He changed every aspect of his lifestyle. And he looked thin. You looked at him from the outside, he looked great. Looked like a healthy version of himself. And then one day I see his name finally on my calendar, on my schedule. And I said, oh, Bob's finally coming in. I wonder what happened. Because usually it takes what? Most people show up at my office not because, hey, I'm healthy and I just want to have my nerve system evaluated. That is usually not the case. Usually it's, they've lost their health to some degree. They can't move, they can't walk, whatever it may be. I got headaches, whatever. And they walk in because they've tried everything else. They don't like the medical system. And they want their bodies to get well. So I'm like, something had to happen. So Bob comes in, and I sit down with him in the exam room, and I said, I've seen you at multiple workshops over these 6 years. Why now? Why now are you here? And he says, I was just diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. And I was like, okay. Now think about this for a second. I know many of you already have a perception of chiropractic and me, and that's fine. Again, it doesn't really matter to me. But most people, when their perception, you hear the word chiropractor, they think, not real doctors, quacks, back pain, neck pain, blah, 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 right? This is a guy coming to me with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. Not neck pain, not back pain. Non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, cancer. So I know, right then and there, I know I did my job. Because I know through the workshops that he heard me about what it is that's happening to his system. He never took action because he never had reason to, because he was never in crisis. But he finally shows up, and now he's got cancer, and he's like, I've got non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, I don't want to do chemo, I don't want to do radiation, I need you to help me. I'm like, let's go, let's do it. So that was 5 years ago. Bob has seen me 3 times a week for 5 years. But here's the cool thing. Every time he goes back to his oncologist, they're like, I don't know what you're doing. I don't know how you're doing it. Because you're not taking any drugs. We've never given you any chemo. We've never given you radiation. What are you doing? And he tells him, and he laughs. The oncologist laughs and says, good, whatever you want to do, keep whatever's working for you is working for you. And the fact of the matter is, if you understand science and you understand health, and you can take your mindset out of the medical system of you're genetically weak, you need a medication to either kill something or make something more and more toxic, and you understand physiology, you will understand that one of the frameworks to keeping your body in balance is how the brain and body are connected. Simple. And Bob made a choice that he's going to come get his nervous system cared for and change all the other things that we talked about, instead of doing nothing and giving himself poison until he eventually, right? Either the cancer dies, because when you take chemotherapy, you kill cancer cells, but guess what else you kill? Healthy cells, right? Your system's more intelligent than that. So, there are 3 things that are going to create damage to your system. And Jordan talked earlier about habits, right? So these are the habits you need to pay attention and be aware of, because these are the habits you need to change to put less stress on the system. And by the way, if you don't believe that your lifestyle is what causes disease, I pulled this article up here when I was stopped at a stop sign. Have anybody of you ever heard of Cancer Alley? No? Cancer Alley is in Louisiana. It's right where the Mississippi kind of pools together. Mississippi River pools together. It's one of the most polluted areas in the United States. And it's a polluted, I'm going to read this for a second, home to hundreds of chemical plants and refineries, right at the base. So a lot of the spills and the chemicals that spill into the Mississippi River, right? And it's right around Baton Rouge area. Predominantly black residents live there, and they have long complained of the highest rates in the country of cancer, miscarriages, allergies, digestive disorders, and reproductive disorders. The highest incidences of cancer and all those disorders are right there. You think that's a genetic problem? Or do you think that's a toxicity problem? Okay. So that's one of the first things that's going to affect your body's ability to stay in balance and heal, is toxins. Now, can you get rid of all toxins? No. We live in a world where everything is toxic, right? Everything is sprayed, everything is processed, everything is designed to last longer. And again, I can be here for 5.5 hours doing a talk on just toxins. But some of the things that I would highly recommend and encourage you look into changing as it relates to getting yourself healthier and whole, right? Because this whole weekend's about self-worth. So put the value in spending money into your food, specifically your meat, because pound for pound, the most toxic thing that you can put in your body is meat. And I'm not telling you to be a non-meat eater. I eat meat. I'm a carnivore. I love it. But I eat the right meat. In fact, when I go to a farm to get my meat, I never get my meat at the grocery store, ever. And then when I eat out, I rarely eat meat, because that stuff is just filled with antibiotics, hormones, and all sorts of other garbage, right? When I go to a farm to research what the food I'm going to put in my body, I make sure the stuff is clean, pasture-raised, not grass-fed, grass-finished, not sprayed, right? They're not eating corn and soy meal that has been sprayed with GMOs, things of that nature. I'm not putting those toxins in my body. Look at your deodorants. Look at your shampoos. Look at your toothpaste. Look at your sprays that you spray in your house, the Febreze and the other chemicals and toxins. These are things that could easily be, and again, we live in a world of information, folks. I don't need to sit here and tell you this. You guys got a phone and a computer in your pocket. You can look at all this stuff, right? But look at the stuff that you're constantly being surrounded by, because that creates what's called bioaccumulation. Bioaccumulation creates an expression of your genetic code in a negative manner, and will turn the genetic history that you have on or off. So if your lifestyle is the expression of your genes, then if you change and minimize the stressors you put through your system, the gene will work the way it's supposed to work. So start paying attention to the stuff that you use regularly. Is it okay for you to cheat once in a while? Yes, but it's what Jordan said earlier, 80% rule, 80-20 rule. 80% of the time is the stuff you need to be concerned yourself with, right? That's one of the stressors that affect your central nervous system. The second thing that affects your central nervous system is traumas. Jordan mentioned, and Courtney mentioned Corinne. Now that was a very aggressive trauma, right, to her brain and nerve system. And that's an example of an extreme expression of trauma, right? Horrible accident. Most of us don't go through, thank God, some of those accidents on a day-to-day basis. But you know what we do on a day-to-day basis? We have repetitive, what's called micro-traumas that we put ourselves in repetitively every day, which wind up bioaccumulating that have the same effect on your genetic expression as a big trauma. It just happens slowly, it happens silently, and it happens accumulatively over time. And that causes a weak genetic expression, causes a change to your structure, which changes how your body functions and stays in balance. and throws you out of balance, which causes dis-ease. So if you look at the word disease, all it means, if health is a sense of balance, right? Health is balance and ease. Disease is a loss of balance or ease. And when they say disease process, your right arm dominant? Okay, just straighten your arm out like this for me here. And actually you can turn and face these guys here. So I'm just gonna push this down. Let's just bring this down to a level here. You don't need to be super strong on this, just resist me a little bit. I'm not gonna push down very hard. Okay, good. What I want you to do is I want you to think in your mind of positive thoughts. I want you to think of something that brings you joy and peace and happiness and love. I want you to get it in your mind. I want you to feel that, okay? And you tell me when you got it.
Got it.
Got it? Push down. Good. Now, I want you to think of something that provides you anger and bitterness and resentment and fear. Mm-hmm. You got it? Mm-hmm. Can you feel it? Mm-hmm. Push down.
It's weird.
Right? And I didn't push any harder. I can tell you that right now. Thanks, man. Your mindset and how it controls your physicality is everything. And you get to choose that. And that comes down to your daily routines that I'm sure they're going to go through with you. But you got to get your mind right the second you get out of bed and right before you go to bed. And then practice that throughout your day. I never look at anything that happens. Things happen negatively in my life, I'll tell you that right now. And then I'm in that moment, I get a choice to determine whether or not I'm going to make good out of this or whether or not I'm going to make bad out of this. And that's the choice I have. And it took me a long time to get to the point where now it's kind of automatic. But I used to have a Band-Aid on a rubber band on my hand. And every time I would think negative thoughts, I would just snap that thing and replace it immediately. That's how I conditioned myself to get my mind consistently right. People say to me all the time, they come in the office like, dude, how are you? Do you ever have a bad day? And I'm like, I have bad days all the time. I just don't choose to let it affect me. That's a choice. But that takes repetition. And repetition comes in the form of this word right here. Neuroplasticity. So right now, wherever you're at in your life, whether your weight, your bank account, your relationships, whatever it may be, wherever you are right now is a byproduct of your thoughts, actions, and behaviors that brought you to here. And those thoughts, action, behaviors have created what's called neuroplasticity. And I'm going to read you the definition of neuroplasticity. Neuroplasticity, the ability of the brain to form and recognize synaptic connections, especially learning or experiencing following an injury or a stressor. So your thoughts right now, we have about 60 to 70,000 thoughts a day, and 90% of those 60 to 70,000 thoughts are thoughts that we had yesterday. You want to change your future reality and your present reality? Change the way you think. How do you change the way you think? They're going to give you got a whole book through here. You pay Jordan to do all this and Courtney to do all this. They're going to teach you all that. But these are the three stressors that affect your central nervous system. Now, the central nervous system is made up of your brain, your spinal cord, the nerves that innervate and supply all your organs. And your central nervous system works through a feedback loop. So your brain sends signals down the cord. These signals are sent out through the nerves. These nerves give life and energy and information to the cells, organs, and tissues. And this information is sent back up through the nerves, back up to the brain. And that's what keeps your body in what's called homeostasis. This nerve system is so intelligent that it's the only system in the body that's encased in bone. The brain encased in bone, the cord encased in bone. Everything is surrounded by soft tissue, muscle, and fat. The only system. Do you think God made a mistake? I don't think so. By the way, think about that for a second. You had two cells form, split, and 9 months you have a human being. You ever just think about that for a second? I think about it a lot. How incredible is that? Like, by the way, just so you know, no antibiotics in that formula, no vaccines in that formula, no doctor in that formula. But yet, we feel like we need a diagnosis to get us through the day. and we feel like we need a chemical to get us through the day. We have more faith in a spoonful of medicine than we do in the inanimate power that created us. And what's amazing, that if you learn to take care of this, along with what I just talked about, the expression of the gene does exactly what it's supposed to do. But here's the thing. You've been dumping traumas, thoughts, and toxins through this system your entire life, from birth. I mean, literally, there's 4 shots right now in the hospital you get when you're born. And one is to protect you against drug use and prostitutes. It's the Hep B vaccination they give a baby. I don't know how babies are hanging out in crack alleys and hanging out at prostitute houses, but that's what they give that kid 2 days in. And not only is that stuff not good for you, right, but it's filled with preservatives that the system can't recognize. So the system changes the integrity of how it works right from the get-go. So on day 1, you're immediately exposed to toxins. So we wonder why our kids don't have a prayer, right? And then when they're children, to shut them up because they're loud and they're trying to express their ability, because we don't have kids exercise the way we do anymore, we put a screen in front of their face and say, watch this. And we feed them sugar and high fructose corn syrup and corn and grain and soy and all this stuff. And we're like, why don't you just calm down? Here, take this pill, because now you have all this attention, you can't focus, so we're going to give you a label of ADD. You see the problem? So if we can clean up the lifestyle and feed better and move better and think better. By the way, the stuff that you learned this weekend, make sure that if you don't have small kids or if you have grandkids, make sure you pass this information on to them. One of the best things I ever did to my kids. And trust me, I didn't think my kids were listening. But when my son plays football at IU, and he's not a big kid. You can tell I'm not a big guy. He's about 5'11". He's Braden Smith's one of Braden Smith's best friends. And he's 6 foot, just like Braden, with shoes on. Braden's not 6 foot, he's 5'11". But so he's 6 foot with his shoes on, with his cleats on, and had no prayer. And I don't know if you ever saw pictures. You guys all Purdue fans, I'm assuming? Yeah. Okay. So so I grew up not only taking care of Braden, but I grew up, Braden and my son Jackson were on the same basketball team from 2nd grade on. So I watched Braden even when he was young, and he was that good even when he was younger. Like the kid, you knew the kid had something, right? But these kids were not big kids, right? And they were not, you could tell Braden had a certain confidence about him even when he was younger. The kid just in the gym constantly, right? But I will tell you, Braden and my kid at freshman year in high school looked like bean poles. They were absolute skinny rails, and I'm grateful for COVID. Because if COVID didn't happen, Braden wouldn't look what he looks like now, and my son Jackson wouldn't look like what he looks like now. They both had the same trainer, obviously 2 different sports, but my kid gained 50 pounds of muscle in a year and a half because of COVID, because they didn't go to school, so all they did was work out and lift every day and eat every day. And Braden went from looking like a beanpole to looking like what he does now in a year's time. It's pretty impressive. I don't know where I was going with that. Thoughts, right. Okay. So what I'm so yes, coming back to this. So my son was not supposed to play football. He was a very skinny kid. Anyway, he would write on sticky notes in his bathroom mirror all the things he wanted to accomplish. And I helped him do this. But when we get to college, I'm like, he probably wasn't listening to me. I kind of forced him into doing that. I go into his apartment, and I go in to use his bathroom, and there it is, all over his bathroom mirror. I mean, there was a little box for him to view his face, but all around his mirror are all the things in I am statements that he was going to accomplish. So teach this stuff to your kids, because they will hear you, and the more, remember, your mind is target oriented, so the more you focus on whatever it is you're focusing on, you're going to achieve. Whether it's positive or negative, you get that choice, right? So Trauma, thoughts, toxins affect the nerve system. These are habits, patterns, and rhythms. Your body creates neuroplasticity. If you want to know why the heart fails over time, or you want to know why the colon fails over time, or the lungs fail over time, it's because it's learned to adapt that way. Your brain is making intelligent adaptations to these stressors that's caused the system to change the way it communicates. So when the brain experiences stress and trauma, the brain changes, and because the cord is an extension of the brain, the cord changes too, and so do the structures. So when the structures shift into the cord and into the nerve roots, it interrupts the feedback loop of communication between the brain and that organ, and the system can't work the way it's supposed to, and the body moves out of balance.